Hi, this is Dr. Go. This video is the fifth and final part of our series on putting expression and emotion into violin pieces. This particular video covers some topics that may not be suitable for certain audiences. So parents, if you're going to show this to your kids, please watch all the way through and make sure the topics covered are suitable for your children. That being said, if you are new to my videos, I've been a professional violinist for almost 30 years, be it as a professional orchestra player, professional soloist, chamber musician, teacher, lecturer, the list goes on. And it is my pleasure, my joy, my privilege to be able to share the things that I've been taught by those better than me, greater than me, with anybody out there that might benefit from these wonderful lessons that, I was lucky enough to have shared with me. This whole channel started as a resource center for my students, and I hope that those watching these videos find something useful somewhere in there. Anyhow, my best wishes to all of you. Let's get started. In the discussion of putting emotion expression into music, we should think about how we're going to create the different types of characters and emotions that we want to put into the music. Now, in the previous videos, we've discussed techniques and approaches to making sounds that can evoke certain emotions. But what about how we create those emotions, expressions, characters, and ideas to place into the music, or to let them develop from the music? So in order to discuss this, we should first start with the question, what is music? When asked this question, I like to answer with a question of my own. Why did the very first human mother sing to her baby? For me, that is music. So if we answer it in that manner, music becomes more than something that we just do for social media or things of that nature. It is a much more needed and necessary thing to the human experience. So what is the life of the musician? Now, in this case, I'm talking about those who make music their life career. And let's face it, no matter how much money is involved, it's not an easy proposition. Okay, actually, any career path where you want to do well is not going to be easy. So in the case of the musician, let's say you're a successful soloist. And again, money aside, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into the practice room. You go to a concert hall, you pour your heart out for, flowers, a bit of a paycheck, slap on the back. You're off to the next city and you hope that somebody remembers your name maybe on the next time through. Life of the musician. But if you love the stage, you gotta do it. We'll come back to this later. As musicians, we not only create characters and emotions just from a piece of music. For the most part, a large part of what we do is we process life events, be they social, be they epic or whatnot, and we make a social commentary. Many times we'll also process personal life events, and that helps us to relate to external life events. So both personal and external life events. They have meaning for the musician. So what happens is we take these events, we process them, and then we make a social commentary. You think about it. Most people in the rat race, if you open up your phone, you open up a newspaper, whatever news media you use, and you read everything in there, it can be overwhelming, can be very depressing. Most of the stuff in there is depressing because, let's face it, fear and shock tactics sell in news media. So the average person probably cannot wrap their brain around every single event that comes out in news media. There's just a lot. What a musician will do is process a lot of these and put them in social commentary so that when we perform on stage, we help people process those events, be they social events, be they life events, be they epic events. This is the role of the musician, and it is a burden because as we process these events, we have to create characters in the music. Be they for the music or from the music, it can go either way. But we create these characters in order to help people process. So if you think of it from an actor standpoint, when we create these characters, it's like creating puppets. We are the puppet master. The characters we create are the puppets. I learned this from an actor and acting teacher, Shyam Sundar Bhadwani. He's a great friend of mine for, almost 30 years. And he's the one that convinced me to go take acting classes to help my stage performance as a violinist. Some of the best advice I've ever taken. So, as he said, when you are the artist, you are the puppet master, the characters you create are your puppets. It's very important that we never let the puppet become the puppet master. We'll discuss this later in a little bit. So, when we have all these characters or puppets, if you will, we use them, we connect them, we put them into context to bring our piece of music alive. And we practice not only performing the piece technically, but living that piece. What do I mean by living the piece? Tell you guys a little inside story. In October of 2001, a quartet of us from the Malaysian Philharmonic Orchestra were scheduled to perform the Shostakovich 8th String Quartet. Now, for those of you old enough to remember, September 11th of 2001 was the bringing down of the Twin Towers in Manhattan from a terrorist attack. So this quartet was 3 Americans and 1 Russian. That 1 Russian really made sure that we got a lot of Russian ideas and feeling and presentation in the quartet. And I remember we had planned this all the way from June, so there was no way we could back out of performing this piece. Because of the events of September 11th and the nature of that piece, for those of you unfamiliar with that piece, it was composed by Shostakovich, commissioned, if I remember correctly, commissioned by the Russian government. And it was, I believe, to document or chronicle the bombings of Berlin or something like this. And the first movement, you can hear his name, DSCH, and it runs through the whole piece. But in the second movement, you can hear bombs dropping, people screaming. It's horrific. Third movement, you can hear like skeletons rattling down the streets. It's like nightmarish stuff. The fourth movement, he starts to criticize the Russian government. You can hear the bum, bum, bum of people knocking on doors to drag citizens away, to disappear, probably die. And the fifth movement is incredibly sad. In our interpretation, it was as if a character in the second violin died and came back as a ghost. At the end, it's a glint of hope, and then it's just gone. I still remember after that performance, the cellist and myself, both Americans, we went, all four of us, we went our separate ways, but the cellist and myself, in our own private spaces off the side of the concert hall, we took about 45 minutes to cry ourselves out of character, because that's how deeply we had taken the music into ourselves. That's living the piece. There are dangers of living that piece in that manner. But before I get into that, I would like to encourage people, whatever piece you play, try to live the piece. It has a whole new life. It's a wonderful and exhilarating feeling to live a piece and create a whole new world in this piece. And to do a social commentary is something that is beautiful and wonderful. There are some dangers of living the piece. If you allow the puppet or the characters to become the puppet master, it can completely overwhelm your mental state. A case in point, a late violinist by the name of Christian Ferris took his own life. Others closer to him may know why he did it, but if you listen to his playing, this man really lived his music. He loved it, but when we allow the characters in our heads to take over our own self, this is one of the dangers that can happen. Now, I had talked about social commentary, memories. You know, I don't remember at least 95% of the music that I performed. Easily 95% I just completely cannot remember. But I remember the 3 audience members who had wanted to commit suicide until they came up and heard my performance, and they told me about it after the performance. I remembered the business lady that was at a loss as to how to solve a problem, that was threatening her company, and she solved it during our performance. I remember the first person I made cry while performing the second movement of the Bruch Violin Concerto. I remember the people. I don't remember the music. The characters were there. I lived the music, and I made a social commentary. For the musician, people matter. Now, in this process of living the music and connecting our characters that we create to our audience, if you feel that your puppet, so to speak, is taking over and becoming the puppet master, and you really are at a loss, you're beside yourself, please seek help. It is not a bad thing. It is a necessary thing for any of us who fall into that trap. I remember about 20 plus years ago, somebody gave me a statistic, and I was unable to check on the veracity of this claim, but they said at that time around 70 to 75% of professional orchestra musicians were bipolar or manic depressive. I did not check the veracity of that. I'm just sharing what I was told. That tells you the seriousness that musicians take this matter. So if you are in a position, if you're a professional musician or a lifelong musician, and you take your music seriously, if you feel yourself getting unbalanced, please seek help. So, with that being said, what is the importance of the musician or the entertainer? And again, I apologize, they're renovating upstairs. So, the importance of the musician, the entertainer, because let's face it, musicians, actors, we are all entertainers. What's the importance? Why, since the earliest portions of civilization, have we had entertainers in human civilization? People always need an expressive outlet. Nowadays, we have so many versions. We have movies, still have theater, dance, music, so on and so forth. The list goes on. All of these are important. So, if you love music, you really love what you do, you gotta do it, whether professionally, as an amateur, just because you love it, as an expressive outlet after work. Please do it well. Do it to the best of your ability. It is not a wasted effort. As always, since this is the end of the series, if there's anything I've said that is contrary to what your teacher has told you, please ignore me, listen to your teacher. And to all of you, all the violinists out there, I wish you all only the very best on this journey of our wonderful instrument, the violin. Cheers, y'all.